Let me talk a little bit about what we need to know with clamping. Now, for the most part, this chair can go together with basic F-style clamps. But one thing that you want to make sure is that where you place the pads for the clamps, first start with a good high quality clamp that's not going to bend around a whole lot while you're using it. When you place the pads on here, what you want to pretend is if this tenon extended all the way through the end, where would it come out of this piece? Well, it would come out right in the middle, this direction, and also across its height. So what I want to avoid is putting a clamp towards the very top or towards the very bottom. I want that clamp right in the middle of that piece. If I don't put that clamp in the middle, what can happen is, as I tighten this clamp down, the clamp will distort and start to bend. And this piece will start to twist. All of the joinery on this chair was cut very, very square. And it's going to make a nice, tight, square, perpendicular chair unless the clamps are put on improperly. The best way to show this, here's a sample mortise and tenon joint, and you can see that there is some play here. If I have clamping pressure on this side or this side, it's going to cause this piece to pull off to the side, and it won't go together crooked. So all that work that I spent, all the time that I spent to make this shoulder square, it's going to get pulled out of square by the improper clamping. The best way to demonstrate this is by taking a couple of pieces of wood that don't have any mortise and tenon on them. Just do a simple butt joint. If I take this clamp and I offset the pads and I try to tighten it down, you can see as I tighten it more and more, it's just pulling it off center. But if I imagine this had a tenon on it that stuck through that wood completely, and I actually line the clamp pad up behind where that tenon would come out of the wood, right here, as I tighten down, everything stays square, snug, and nothing flies apart. That's why placing these pads are critical to making sure that your chair glues up nice and square. You might want to consider using some clamping cauls too. And let me show you why. As I put this clamp on this piece of wood and start to tighten it down, it creates a lot of pressure. And it's enough pressure to actually damage the wood fibers below the clamp. There's a little indent right here on the wood created by the pad from the clamp. In order to prevent that, I can put a block on that wood and clamp against that. What that does is it helps to spread that clamping pressure out on a lot more surface, so that the wood has more strength to resist that clamping pressure, so that it doesn't dent like it did right here. The particular clamps that I use for assembling Morris chairs are Bessie Tradesman clamps. And I've had these ones for several years, and I use about 4 of these larger clamps that have about a 30-inch capacity. And then I also need about 3 of these smaller clamps. These have roughly a 6-inch capacity.